You are now listening to the Motown Sports Talk podcast. Here's your hosts, Jordan and Dalton.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today is Tuesday, November 24th, 2020. And it's another miserable week after another sad loss. It's just really upsetting at this point. And again, at halfway through the game, I just ended up starting laughing at how bad we are because I just couldn't handle getting mad anymore. It's like, this is just sad. The Lions lost 0-20 to the Carolina Panthers. They lost to a backup quarterback who was in the XFL last year. They were without Christian McCaffrey. God, could you imagine if they had Christian McCaffrey this game? It probably could have been a 50-something blowout. They were missing just as many players, if not more, than the Lions, where they're, like I said, they're down their starting quarterback. This was PJ Walker, the former XFL star, who honestly, he was in the running for MVP in the XFL before that got shut down, but still, it's not NFL competition you're playing against. Anytime the backup quarterback starts against the Lions, they seem to have their big blowout breakout game, no matter who it is.
And also saying the Lions got blown out, this was the first blowout against the Detroit Lions since 2009, and also the first time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been 11 years since the Lions have been blown out. And honestly, as long as I've been a fan of the team, like this...
Even Jim Bob Cooter did better.
Yeah,
than Daryl Bevel.
It's just terrible. Joe Lombardi was better. Jim Bob Cooter was better. And both those offenses were so bland, but they just seemed to do better than we could have against the Carolina Panthers. It looked absolutely awful yesterday. And again, I feel like this season has been worse than the 0-16 season. I guess just because we had so much hope and ambition going in. Again, we thought Matt Patricia finally got his guys and everything, but...
Matt Patricia is not that good of a coach, and we should have looked elsewhere to hire. Obviously, he just wasn't it. I don't know. I don't know if it's the players still not buying in. That's all I've heard is players have bought into him now, and we're still just showing no progress whatsoever. I understand if all our losses were within one score. Then okay, we have shown progress. He's doing good. Maybe he can stay. No, we are getting blown out. We are looking absolutely terrible. Even in the games we win, it basically looks like two terrible teams, and it's who wants it?
Yeah, who's worse than the other, basically. And like you said, the teams we won against are all bad teams, except for
only the Cardinals.
Cardinals, yes, and even that came down to the wire that we almost should not have won that game, but it's just so bad.
Look at last week. We won last week, but to Washington football team and Alex Smith that hadn't played football in so long, and he almost beat us. Thanks to Matthew Stafford for getting the ball downfield in 16 seconds to get Matt Prater the field goal. But still, we're a laughingstock of the NFL. Honestly, I feel like we should be 0-whatever with the New York Jets. I feel like the Jets almost have a better team than us.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, it's kind of sad to say, but yes, it is true. I feel like we should be winless. I don't think we should have won any of these games this season. And I think that's why, again, we just had so much anticipation. I honestly, going into the season, I wasn't happy with Matt Patricia or his coaching or anything up to this point, but I had hope. We brought in Corey Endelin, who was supposed to change the defense and bring that spark, bring that energy that was supposed to, change the philosophy of the Detroit Lions, but it did not work, and the defense looks the exact same. We have the exact same problems as we did last year.
And don't get me wrong, I like our pieces, Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, Swift, our offensive line's doing good. Stafford, yeah, he's had his ups and downs, but that's just going to happen with a older quarterback no matter what. Awarrier, I think he's been our most improved player this season. He looks amazing.
He was the highest graded cornerback of the Week 11 NFL season, so Amani Awarrier's looked amazing too.
Yeah, Desmond Trufant's been hurt, but honestly, when he's out there, I think he's a good corner for us too. Jeff Okudah, a lot of people have been making fun of him and talking crap about him on Twitter, which yes, I understand. He doesn't look the greatest, but you guys got to remember this man is a first.
Week 2, yeah, he starts against Devontae Adams, his first game of the season. So again, you have a tough task, and he's been playing against some of the top wide receivers in the league. So, and I made this comment to you off air too. Look at Amani Awarrier. He barely saw the field his first year because he wasn't good enough. He was a 5th round pick, and now he is balling out and possibly one of our best cornerbacks. Same with Darius Slay. He barely played his rookie year. He didn't even get a start, I think, till the end of the year. And then look at, he's turned out to be an all-pro cornerback. So cornerbacks take time to develop. It's going to take a little bit of time with Okudah. And I I think he has shown a lot of improvement. Like if you look at his first, I think 4 weeks, he was one of the worst cornerbacks in the NFL, and now he's still obviously he's not as good as we would like from the 3rd overall pick, but he has definitely improved from his struggles earlier in the season.
And you guys just got to give him time. I understand he was the 3rd overall pick. Like, we drafted him above other players, and yes, we did. We needed a corner. I'm sorry that we traded Slay away for him, and everyone's saying he was supposed to be the replacement. Yes, he is.
Clearly, at this point, the season is on a downward spiral, so we should just be tanking for the rest of the season anyways to try and get a higher draft pick.
And our linebackers. I don't like our...
Yes, we've talked about that before. That is clearly the weakest link of our team.
I like Jamie Collins. He is good.
He's the only good linebacker that we have. Him and Reggie Ragland, who, again, was kind of a sneaky signing in the season, was earlier when free agents started. A lot of people didn't really consider that a big signing, which again I didn't either. I knew he was pretty good from what Kansas City is where he came from, I believe. I know he was pretty good there, so but still he's not an all-pro. He's just the best linebacker in a really shitty linebacker room. So
we need to go out this offseason if we want to start contending next season, unless they say screw it, Bob Quinn and Patricia are gone, we bring in new guys and the new GM is just like, I want to rebuild. Obviously then we can. But I feel like this team could still, like, if you come in, if we keep Bob Quinn and he doesn't want to rebuild yet, like, I feel like we can still make a push with the team that we have. You still have Stafford under contract, so if he doesn't retire, you still have Stafford next season. Get some better linebackers.
Yeah, we have a lot of things we need to address in the offseason. Like I said, but I do think we have a lot of good building blocks. Like you said, all those young players, Okudah, Oworie, Tracy Walker, those are all really good young players. And then like on the defensive front, we've got Deshaun Hand.
Romeo Okora. They need to bring back Romeo Okora.
Romeo Okora needs to come back. And then John Penasini, who's been, 6th or 7th round pick, he's been playing too a lot and looking all right. We've got some good building blocks on defense, especially on the offensive side with Swift, Hawkinson. Talking about next season, let's talk about the wide receivers for a quick second. Again, this is something I brought up to you off air. Clearly, in my opinion, Kenny Golladay is going to demand top tier money. He's going to want $20+ million a year. Obviously, he's not injury prone, but he has had injury problems throughout his playing career. I'm not 100% sure about his collegiate career, high school career, if he was injury prone or had a lot, but I do know as the Lions, he's been injury prone. I don't know if we can pay that to someone who hasn't even shown that much durability in their first 4 years, let alone going forward. The older you get, the more hits you take. Obviously, it's going to be harder to recover from, so I don't think he's worth it. Someone I do think who is, again, expiring after this year is Marvin Jones. Do you think that it's more of a possibility that we bring Marvin Jones back at more of a cheaper veteran deal because he's been here for so long and he's still performing at a clearly high level, and let Danny Amendola and Kenny Golladay walk at free agent?
Danny, I think, is retiring after the season. I don't think Danny Amendola is playing another season. But obviously, I don't want to see Kenny go. Like, I want Kenny to stay. But if Bob Quinn's the GM, Bob Quinn comes from the Patriots, and the Patriots don't play guys. They just don't. Their draft picks that end up being stars, they don't pay them top dollar. You saw Trey Flowers. They could have brought him back, but they didn't want to pay him the money that we were paying him, so they let him walk. So I do think if Kenny Golladay hasn't gotten an extension yet, I think Kenny Golladay will be gone, and I think he will be on another team next season. And yes, I would like Detroit to go after Marvin Jones and keep Marvin Jones around, because Marvin Jones has been one of our best players since we signed him. He came in and started performing the first season we brought him in. So if we can get him on a cheaper deal to come in and be our veteran, be that deep threat, be that extra wide receiver that we need, like, yes, 100% we bring him back.
It's all up to the possibly new GM if we end up going with a new GM. But yes, again, I agree. I definitely think I would bring back Marvin Jones on a cheaper deal, because again, he's not going to draw $20+ million a year as Kenny Golladay possibly will. And like you said, he's a good veteran. We're obviously going to need to bring in new wide receivers and draft new wide receivers. So obviously we have a young Quentin Cephas. We have a young Marvin Hall who, he's done pretty well. I'm not sure how old he is.
And also we have Jamal Agnew, that obviously this season has been the best, trying to catch the ball and stuff. But you guys got to remember, he was a corner and a kick returner. He's not used to being out there running routes, trying to catch the ball.
Yeah, he's still transitioning into wide receiver.
And that's, I was going to say, if we keep him around and we keep him next year, like this whole offseason, he's going to know that next year he's going to be a wide receiver. So this offseason, he can work on wide receiver drills, catching the ball, making sure, like, so he can improve on that and be that Danny Amendola, that just sure-handed, oh, give it to him short, he can make people miss, get a first down. Like, he could be the Danny Amendola if Danny Amendola retires or we don't bring him back.
But like I said, I definitely think regarding the Marvin Jones, I think he's kind of the more smart play. He's going to be cheaper. And again, he brings veteran leadership to that wide receiver room, and he can help. Obviously, he knows the organization. And another thing, he's not one of those diva wide receivers. He wasn't demanding. Obviously, his play hasn't been outstanding. He hasn't been an all-star wide receiver. But again, we did bring him to replace Calvin Johnson. And like you mentioned, his first few years with him and Golden Tate paired together, they were really, really good as a wide receiver duo. So I definitely think he's worth bringing back.
So the next game is going to be Thanksgiving Day.
Last thing before we move on, like you said, we do play Thursday, so it's a short week. And I do think so that's one of the reasons that Patricia is possibly not fired. Again, unless they're planning on waiting till the end of the season, I hope they just do it after Thanksgiving, because I definitely understand you can't fire a head coach and give them 3 days, the interim 3 days to prepare for a game. So, but even the injury report list is pretty long. They did not practice today. That is worth noting. They didn't practice, but they still released an injury report based on if they would practice, how it would have played out. And basically, Amendola, Mike Ford, Deshaun Hand, Jeff Okudah, and DeAndre Swift all would have been a no practice. And then as far as limited practice, we have Austin Bryant, Gerard Davis, Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, Will Harris, TJ Hawkinson, Jonah Jackson, Christian Jones, Reggie Ragland, Matthew Stafford, and Hello Vaitai.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a big list.
Yeah. And that we can't assume any of those are rest days because they didn't even practice today. So we're just going to have to watch it again. Maybe they are just going to try and rest guys throughout the week who have ailing injuries. Again, if we're just trying to lose at this point, what does it even matter if anyone's in there or out? I guess, Dalton, last thing before we move on, Houston Texans, we're probably not going to be able to get another podcast in before then. What are your thoughts on the game and who do you think is going to win?
I honestly don't know, because Houston, Deshaun Watson is a problem. Even with no D-Hop and that, he's still a problem.
Yeah. And they still have fast guys down there. Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks, who is kind of an underrated wide receiver. He's not what he used to be, but he's still fast, and that seems to be what kind of burns our guys when it comes to man coverage and stuff like that.
So it could definitely be another long day for us Lions fans on Thanksgiving, and we could definitely get blown out again and not look the best and just make that day even worse.
Yep, I'm already expecting, I'll go ahead and say it, I'm expecting a loss. This is the first time this season I'm actually coming out and saying I'm expecting the Lions to lose. If we come out and win, which is something the Lions do a lot, they win games they're not supposed to win. It'll obviously be a miracle pulled out of nowhere, but I don't think the Lions really have any chance because, as you mentioned, Deshaun Watson is rushing quarterbacks always give us a problem. Anyone who can get out of the pocket and extend plays seems to be an issue because even our defensive linemen are not quick enough to get there. We've seen it all the time. Here, anytime anyone scrambles out of the pocket, we just see our D-line rushing. They end up throwing. Someone's wide open downfield every time.
I'm predicting a loss too.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough Thanksgiving. So just make sure you have lots of alcohol and lots of turkey or whatever you prefer. All right, so moving on, we'll move on to Pistons. And as you can see, we are both ironically wearing Pistons gear after that terrible Lions loss. Neither one of us want to rep the Lions anytime right now. We're both still fans. We'll always be fans. I unfortunately have them tattooed on my chest, so I'm kind of forced to be. Disregarding that, we are going to move on to the Pistons a little bit, and they have been making a lot of moves. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they are the most active team in free agency right now. I can't name another team. I know the Lakers have kind of been making a lot of moves.
I was going to say, this free agency, a lot of teams have been making moves, trades, signing players. Like, this has been one of the most, I would say, roster moves in an off season.
Yeah,
it feels like
it's been really aggressive out there for these NBA GMs. They've been moving players left and right, moving contracts left and right, doing three-way trades. But yeah, so we've already covered the draft. If you want to see our thoughts on some of the players we picked, you can look at our last episode. We kind of went center signing crazy. We signed Mason Plumlee first, then we signed Jahlil Okafor, then we also traded for Dwayne Dedman. Yeah, we have quite a few big men on the team. We also signed...
The Mason Plumlee deal was a 3-year, $25 million deal. He's 30. He averaged 7.2 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 2.5 assists in 13 minutes or 17 minutes for Denver last season. And then Jahlil Okafor was a 2-year for the veteran minimum, and he's 24 years old with some upside. He averaged 8.1 points and 4.2 rebounds per game for the New Orleans Pelicans, and he was obviously the 3rd overall pick in 2015. He was supposed to be an all-star and didn't pan out to be that.
Yeah, so he's still really young. He still has a lot of talent. And then someone else we signed was forward Josh Jackson, who, just like Jahlil Okafor, was the number 4 overall pick back in 2017. And again, he just kind of hasn't panned out yet. Again, these are guys with a lot of potential who are still really young, and they still have time to develop. Again, we know Dwayne Casey is a really good coach at that. He's really good at developing players and getting the most out of them. So maybe he can actually get their potential and get that all-star level of play out of them.
And I love this signing. I loved seeing Josh Jackson coming out of the draft and everything. I really wanted us to draft him. Obviously, we didn't. He went to, I think, the Suns, I believe, was the team that drafted him. And I wanted him so bad, and obviously he hasn't done as well as he was supposed to and everything. I mean, he did average 9 points per game on 44% shooting last season for the Grizzlies. So I'll take that 44% from shooting. That's something Detroit need, obviously, which you got to think all these players were kind of role players that weren't playing a lot for the teams that they were on, so obviously they're going to average less on those teams than per se us that are rebuilding and trying to change the picture of our franchise, of trying to get out of that mediocrity, rebuild, and move on to winning another championship. So I love the signing. It's just a great player, a great fit for our team, the way Troy Weaver's doing it. Hopefully he does great.
And then another, probably the biggest signing so far, was Jeremiah Grant. He's a forward, and he was probably the biggest name that we've signed so far back in the Nuggets. Yep, he used to play for.
Oh, yes, and I extremely love this signing.
Yeah.
I am so excited about this signing.
Yeah.
He got offered the same exact deal that we offered him from Denver.
But he wanted a bigger offensive role on the
and that's what we were giving him than Denver. So the contract is a 3-year, $60 million deal. That's quite a lot for a player of his caliber.
He also was shooting 47.8% altogether, so that's a
and
huge
38.9 from behind the arc, so 3-pointers. So
yeah, that's something we really need here.
And he's 26 years old, and he averaged 12 points for the Nuggets last season. And also, a thing to point out is I saw this on Twitter that in the regular season, the Grant Plumlee duo had a negative 5.5 net rating in 752 minutes on the year. So that signing Plumlee and Grant, it was working for Denver, so why not bring them both to Detroit and let that help us? Obviously, as you all know, Blake Griffin is still a part of the team. As of right now, nothing has been done with him. So obviously, I'm guessing he's going to be our starting 4 at the start of the season. Or he moves into that backup role and comes off the bench with his injury history. And then maybe towards the season, if maybe we make playoffs or something, maybe he gets inserted back into the starting role, or
I don't know. I have 2 theories. I have one, which is one, again, that you and me talked about earlier today, is that we could just be going small ball. We could be trying to put Blake at the 5, Grant at the 4, and then I don't even know who we can...
But then that doesn't make sense for all the centers that we signed.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So that's I don't know how this is going to work.
So yeah, my other thing is that we could just use Blake and have him start for the season and see how he's doing, and if he can stay healthy, if he's still playing at an all-star level, and if he's not, then try to trade him off and get some trade assets or just some younger players, something like that. That might be the other option to start the season.
And also in the signing Jeremiah Grant, it was a sign and trade Denver because they had the rights on him. So we gave them cash for him, and we also received the rights to Nikola Redovic. I'm probably said his name wrong, but I love that signing. I honestly, I don't know, maybe we put him at our starting 3. I mean, he is a bigger player, so I don't see that happening, but
Yeah.
maybe that's what Detroit wants to do. All these teams are going small ball, so maybe they're like, hey, let's go big ball. Let's make these teams try to stop us. Because, I mean, obviously teams are going a lot more small ball and not having, like, centers, having power forwards playing. Obviously, like, Houston had P.J. Tucker as their center all season. So, like, maybe the Pistons are like, let's go big ball and make these teams play all their big men to try to stop us. Who knows?
But then a couple other trades they made. We traded for DeLon Wright. They also traded for Zahir Smith, who is still only 21 years old. He was a 16th overall pick in 2018. And again, this hasn't really panned out. So we're just bringing in all these kind of former top 5, top 10 picks, hoping that they can pan out. And then we also signed Anthony Lamb as well,
which he was an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
But Zahir Smith, Dwayne Dedmon are probably just going to be waived and their contracts are going to be stretched.
Yeah.
And we're going to be paying them for the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why Zahir Smith, because honestly, I wouldn't mind keeping him on the team to see if maybe he can develop into something under Dwayne Casey. But obviously Troy Weaver has his vision and what he wants to do, and he's going to do that. We traded for Zahir Smith. We traded Tony Bradley for him. So, I mean, obviously we got rid of one of our centers that we had like 10 of. But getting back to the Anthony Lamb, I know probably a lot of you are like, who? So he played 4 seasons at Vermont, averaging 16.4 points and 6.5 rebounds per game. He shoots 33.6% from 3 and 47.6 overall during his college career. And I think he and somebody else are going to be fighting for the last two-way spot on our roster. So he could not even end up making the team or be a G League candidate. So all that is up for grabs. But yes, so waiving and stretching right now are considered to be Dwayne Dedmon, Rudy Magruder, and then Zahir Smith. I know I'm not 100% and I'm saying names correctly. That is who he's thinking about doing it to. Obviously, none of them have actually been. He might be trying to work out some more trades to try to get rid of them.
That's the biggest thing. There's still a lot of moves to be made, and I'm sure a lot of these players won't even be on the roster. I'd like to try and do a kind of a figure out the roster and who's first and second string, but again, we're still not sure. There's still a lot of moves that are going to be made going back and forth, and I'm sure a lot of these players might not even be on the roster start at the start of the season. So we'll still see. Again, a lot of moves are going to be made.
Troy Weaver is out here wheeling and dealing. Honestly, I've never seen a GM come into a team and make this many moves in his first offseason. Like, normally they come in and kind of do like here and there, but no, he came in and he just said, bye everybody, I want my own team. I was going to say Blake Griffin is the longest 10-year player on the Detroit Pistons right now.
Yeah, I know. We need to get new GM, again, for the Lions, who's going to do the same exact thing. Just come in, clear house, clear everyone, get trade assets, get draft value, and build the team up the way it's supposed to be. So
I'm excited to see how this team turns out and, like, how, like, everyone fits. Like, honestly, like he was saying, like, I think we might have to do an episode trying to figure out who's going to be where for this roster, because I feel like every position's up for grabs. Honestly.
Yeah, point guard, center, power forward. Again, we have no idea who's starting at anything, whether they're going to go with the veterans at starting or start with the young guys. I'm assuming they'd start with the veterans and try to ease the rookies into the starting role, but we'll have to see.
Oh, also, the Detroit Pistons re-announced the rights on Thon Maker, Langston Galloway, Jordan Bone.
Yep, so we're just going to be letting all of them walk.
Yep. So we don't have bird rights on them or anything, and they're free agent.
So yeah, again, like you said, Blake Griffin's now the longest tenured Piston, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does the rest of this offseason. We've only got, today is the 24th, so we've got about a month, a little bit less than a month until the start of the season. So we'll have to wait and see what he does. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. We always appreciate it, and we'll see you again next time.